you.
Nice to see you, sir.
Sorry, the president's
A little bit on the fly.
Yeah. Sorry about that. There we go. Oop, should be good there.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. What happened here Saturday night was a criminal attack, and federal, state, and local law enforcement are actively working to bring those responsible to justice. I've been briefed regularly since this happened, both on the investigation and on the emergency management effort here to support those who have been affected by the loss of power. Today I visited one of the substations that was attacked, and I want to thank the people who are working so hard to restore power. It's very complex what they are doing, and they've been working around the clock to do that. I've met with the emergency management team here in Moore County, and I've met with local, state, and federal law enforcement to get updated on the investigation. Helping the vulnerable people and the places where they live, including adult care homes, is a priority. Making sure that people are warm as the night approaches, making sure people are cared for. Making sure that critical services at hospitals, in law enforcement, at emergency management services are supported and available. All of that is crucial. Now, while we are determined to keep people safe, we're also deeply concerned about the small businesses that are losing out on valuable retail time right here before the holidays, as well as our school students who are missing valuable class time because of closure of schools. The local and the state response to all of this has been swift and strong, and I know that we'll all keep working until the power is restored and do whatever we need to do afterward as well will be important. Protecting critical infrastructure like our power system must be a top priority. This kind of attack raises a new level of threat. We will be evaluating ways to work with our utility providers and our state and federal officials to make sure that we harden our infrastructure where that's necessary and work to prevent future damage. I will continue to get briefed on this investigation as it continues, and I'm sure that we will learn more about motives of this intentional attack, an attack that damaged an entire community. Regardless of motive, violence and sabotage will not be tolerated. In the meantime, I have been impressed with the resilience and the community spirit of the people of Moore County. I'm grateful for their public spirit and their help for each other, helping to serve meals to the people down at the substation who were working on making repairs, helping each other in the community. And I am deeply appreciative of the first responders, the 911 operators, the good work that they were doing today in Moore County, making sure they had all of those positions filled with personnel who were handling the load. The law enforcement, the people who are helping with traffic lights being out, the healthcare providers, the emergency personnel, and others who are doing their very best to get us past this. Have a number of people here who are with me working from the state perspective, Secretary Eddie Buffalo, who is the Secretary of our Department of Public Safety. I also have Will Ray, who is our Emergency Management Director for North Carolina. Colonel Freddie Johnson, who is the head of our Highway Patrol. And, of course, Sheriff Fields, who has been working diligently on this case since the beginning. He's here as well. And we have Jeff Brooks from Duke Energy, who is going to give us a briefing here as well. First, I'm going to turn it over to Secretary Buffalo for a word or two. Secretary Buffalo.
Thank you, Governor, for your leadership, sir. First of all, let me say thank you to the Moore County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Fields, and to the Moore County Public Safety Director, Mr. Phillips, for your extraordinary quick response in this event. And thank you all the public safety partners. As the Governor alluded to, the North Carolina Department of Public Safety is fully engaged. We're fully engaged with personnel and resources. We have the North Carolina State Highway Patrol, the North Carolina Division of Emergency Management, the Alcohol Law Enforcement, and of course our State Bureau of Investigation is assisting the FBI as well as the Moore County Sheriff's Office to bring these folks to justice that did this unprecedented event here in Moore County. We're resilient here in Moore County. I know citizens are helping you out, Sheriff. We do ask those who have information that they contact the Moore County Sheriff's Office to assist in this investigation, and we'll be able to bring these folks to justice as the law requires. And Governor, I'll turn it back over to you, sir.
Now we'll hear from Jeff Brooks from Duke Energy.
Thank you, Governor. Mr. Secretary, thank you as well for being here and for the opportunity to give an update. Duke Energy continues to keep this community in our hearts, certainly as we work diligently to restore power for the homes and businesses here in this area. We recognize how challenging these conditions are, and we recognize that as the days progress, those challenges become more acute. So we take our jobs very seriously and are very committed to serving you in this time. As a reminder, we had about 45,000 customers that were impacted by this incident here in Moore County on Saturday evening. We have worked to make some progress as our repairs continue. We were able to restore about 7,000 customers last night as we completed some repairs on some of the equipment that was damaged. That work continues, and we have some repair paths that we hope can potentially restore a few thousand more. But as we said yesterday, we continue to maintain that for the majority, this outage will continue until we get those repairs completed. And so we will gradually see more recovery, but we could still see this extend Wednesday into Thursday, somewhere in that time frame. So just keeping those expectations, transparent. And as you think about that, obviously one message we say is, if you do rely on electricity for medical needs, our local communities have offered resources that you can take advantage of, and certainly we want you to keep your family safe and the way you need to be. We are working diligently to make those repairs. In some cases, equipment could be repaired in place, and that's a good thing. In other cases, the damage was to the point that the equipment had to be replaced. And so we are working to get those equipment that we need here to get it into position. Understand, though, that it's not as simple as changing a light bulb, as it were. Some of this equipment does take a significant amount of work, a significant amount of process that goes through putting it into place safely, getting it in service. But we are working in parallel on many paths to make sure there is nothing that delays this return, that when one piece is ready to go into service, the grid is ready to receive it, and we're ready to restore your power incrementally as we go. We continue to partner with our local sheriff and his agency, as well as state and federal partners, to make sure that we are providing all the information that is needed to be able to assist in your investigation. And we appreciate the resources. We appreciate the support from the state, certainly, in this as well. Resiliency is about community. It's about Moore County. It's about the state. It's about all of us working together. And Duke Energy is committed with this instance to make sure that we are getting our system back up. But we also remain committed to continuing to make the improvements that are needed on the grid, to strengthen the grid, to make it increasingly resilient, increasingly able to recover quickly when these types of outages occur. So we will continue to learn from these situations, but obviously our focus right now is on recovery. We're also focused on helping the local community. We live and work in this community just as many of you do. And in addition to our crews working to restore power, we have been on the ground here volunteering, trying to help out where we can, speaking with local leaders and local businesses to understand what are your needs. And as part of that, we have announced today that we're going to make an initial commitment of $100,000 to this community to be able to help with some of those community needs. We'll be working with organizations like the Red Cross and other groups to help address where we need to be. And it's a way that we can do something as employees and as an organization to assist even as we're trying to get the power back restored. But we will continue to work until everyone is back up. We appreciate your patience. This is a situation that has affected us all, but we will get through this together, and we will appreciate the opportunity to serve you in this time. Thank you.
So I've spoken with U.S. District Attorney for the Middle District, Sandra Hairston, Mike Harden, the District Attorney, the FBI, the SBI, Sheriff Fields. They were just meeting upstairs. I know that they are leaving no stone unturned in this investigation to find those who are responsible. I know you had told me that there wasn't really an update, Sheriff, but if you would like to speak, you certainly may.
Thank you, Governor, and I just want to thank you again for all the support that you have given us through the state. I really, truly appreciate that. The citizens of Moore County appreciate that. The only thing I may add is just our tip line. We're working together with the federal and state agencies. We run in all tip lines through the Moore County Sheriff's Office, and our tip line number is 910-947-4444. Any information or anything you hear, please call that number, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you so much.
Take any questions that you might have. Yes, sir.
Governor, can you, this might be for the sheriff, about the attack itself, can you talk a little bit about sort of what we know about what firearms may have been used and what leads you to believe this was more of an intentional attack than this kid shooting a power station?
So I'm not going to get into the specifics of the attack. I'm going to leave that to the local, state, and federal investigators. I know that they are working hard on this. I do know, and they've said this publicly, that this was an intentional attack that caused significant harm to a lot of people. If the sheriff wants to comment on that, he certainly can.
Governor, I don't have anything further to comment other than to say it was the damage was done by firearm, and that's pretty much all we want to elaborate as far as that.
Yes, sir.
Was it just the two substations shot, and then did other ones like fail due to stress on the system, or explain better how that went down?
Yes, so there was physical damage at two substations in the area, and then the effect of that ultimately resulted in the larger outage that affected 45,000, which is nearly all the customers that Duke Energy serves in Moore County.
And the 45,000, that's customers, but like a household might be a customer. So how many individual people were affected? Do you have an estimate?
I don't have an estimate, but you're exactly right. Those are households and businesses. So you can imagine if a typical house has 2 or 3 people in them, it affects far more than just the number of customers that we mentioned through that count.
Yes. Back there.
Question also for Jeff. Can you say whether any of this is going to be affected by the repairs that have been made in Florida and other states? Is that affecting the availability of repairs parts and that kind of thing?
Let me make sure I'm clear on the question. You were asking if the hurricanes recently, is that what you're asking, were affecting the part? No, in this case, it's more of a situation of the time it takes to move those materials from either locally or, but in some cases, regional distribution areas and locations to then install them in place. And it would be more like perhaps the comparison of changing a small thing like a light bulb in your house versus your HVAC system. If you want to kind of get a sense of some repairs are easier, some repairs are more complex, and there's a time associated with those.
Governor, did these attacks happen simultaneously, or was one substation attacked and then the other?
Sheriff, do you want to answer that?
That is still under investigation, and that's not been determined yet.
Sheriff, can you say more about what the word intentional means? The average person doesn't know really what a substation is. Does it look like the person who did this must have intimate knowledge of how these places
Yes,
function?
Well, you handled it pretty well the other day,
Yeah.
so if you want to share that.
I will say this, the individual that done the damage knew exactly what they were doing to cause the damage and cause the outage that they did.
Is there any reason to believe there's a threat to other communities regarding this and security via other substations in other places in the state?
We're working with Duke Power here in the county and the governor as well to make sure that our substations here in the county and as well as across the state, that they're looking at all security issues with their utility company.
Is the military involved in the investigation?
Let me just respond to that. I'm always concerned about critical infrastructure, and I think we certainly need to learn from this incident as to what we may need to do, because these kinds of things cannot happen. I mean, we cannot tolerate this type of wide power outage to so many people. And I know that I had a conversation with the CEO of Duke Energy today, Lynn Good. She understands that as well. We know that there may be some things that need to change to make sure that our infrastructure is protected.
Is the military involved in the investigation at all, given training soldiers like that in this area?
We have been in contact with the colonel over in Fort Bragg. They've offered all assistance with us to formulate any investigative needs that we might need from them.
Yes, sir.
Do you all have any reason to believe there's more than one person responsible?
I think the sheriff would want to say that that's a matter of the investigation, right, Sheriff?
That's correct.
Yes. And if you can, the questions dealing with the investigation, what specifically happened, I don't think you're going to get very many answers on that today. So what other questions might you have?
Is this being investigated as an act of domestic terrorism?
I think investigators are leaving no stone unturned as to what this is. They are looking at every motivation that could possibly occur here, and they want to find the perpetrators. Yes, right here.
One more question for the sheriff. Were there security cameras present on site at the substation?
For security reasons, we don't speak specifically about measures that we have at our facilities. What I can say is that Duke Energy incorporates multiple layers of security across its system to monitor and protect critical infrastructure. And we're certainly working with the Sheriff's Office and with law enforcement to provide any information that we have that's available to assist their investigation.
Any information, Governor, about the shelter? Some people were concerned because the capacity of the shelter here in Mark County was for 250 people, and maybe more people will need help with these cold temperatures. Can you give us more information about that, please?
I think they had 19 people who were there last night, and I think they are ready for most any capacity. Will, would you like to comment on that? Okay. Other questions?
There was a similar incident back in 2013 in California where a substation was shot up by people who clearly knew what they were doing. So since then, what has been done, was anything done to upgrade the security around the stations here?
I would just say we learn from every incident that security is always an evolving process. And from those incidents, we took learnings from them, incorporated them into our security response plan. We take information from our peers. We share information with our trade organizations, government agencies, and it's a collaborative effort to stay ahead of these types of challenges. Certainly that event provided learnings for all of the industry and was incorporated into our responses.
Yes, this question is for you also. Sorry. Well, while you're up there.
Yeah.
Have there been any issues sourcing equipment for these repairs, and have you already brought crews from other parts, either the region or the country, to help and expedite this process?
So, as far as the equipment goes, it's more of a case of getting that equipment in place and getting it installed that takes time. There's very, deliberate processes that go. This is not small equipment. This is big stuff. So that's really what's driving some of the timelines, is the ability to have that equipment in place and get it there. Not so much a supply, issue. The second aspect of it is substations have specialized personnel that work on them that are trained to do that, and we have those, here in the region that can do that. So unlike a storm where, I know you've experienced before, we might bring in crews from out of state, or we might bring crews from other regions. This is a fairly localized incident that we have to get through the work process. It's not as much the scale of work as in a storm where you might have, thousands of locations.
The damage from what I've heard sounds so extensive. I mean, are we talking about potentially rebuilding these substations?
So in some cases, equipment could be repaired in place. In other cases, it was damaged beyond repair, and that equipment then has to be removed, other equipment brought in and replaced. And when you consider what it takes to decommission that equipment, bring in new equipment and commission it, there is a time factor involved in that, and that's certainly playing into the estimates that we've provided to customers.
So obviously security was a concern at these substations initially. What is being done now to secure them better, even as crews are still out there working?
Well, again, one of the things that we said earlier, our security model involves multiple layers. And so you've seen part of that in this instance. But what I would say is that we are continuing to take information from this incident. It will be incorporated into near-term and long-term planning. But we evaluate our security measures on an individual basis when we look across the system. And then we have other measures in place. Full-time teams that do nothing but monitor and respond to these types of things, processes and procedures. All of that is working and in play here. So I would say that physical security is absolutely an important part of it, but there's many layers to that are still in place.
Got time for one more.
Governor, can you speak at all to the state of our infrastructure? You called this a different level of threat. And I think for Americans watching this story all around the country right now, it's a bit unsettling to see how the infrastructure could be taken out by a random group of individuals on a Saturday night. I mean, what does this mean not just for North Carolina, but for the rest of the country?
Well, we know that our infrastructure is critical, and one of our areas of concentration lately has been cybersecurity. We know that massive damage could potentially be done by these cyber terrorists who are located worldwide. So I formed our Joint Terrorism Cyber Security Task Force, that helps us to plan and to prevent those kinds of attacks. I know that with our power sector, water infrastructure, we know that potential vulnerabilities are there. I think that we'll look at this incident and evaluate where we are, not only with this, but for other infrastructure, hoping too that this criminal investigation, we can determine what's going on and what the motivations are and learn from that as well. Thank you guys for being with us today.